Now, today we'll begin with the first function called append. The last function we saw was resize. Okay, it is similar to your reshape function, which helps me giving a new dimension to my array. Okay, let us go ahead with the new function called append. Now, this function will add values at the end of my input array. Okay, the append operation is not in place, a new array is allocated. And also, if suppose the error is occurred, if there's some problem with the dimension of the array, or there's a mismatch, then exception will be thrown, which is your value error exception. So let us see one example. Let us import numpy as np. We'll create a 2D array by the name a equal to np dot array, and as it is 2D array, we need two square brackets to pass some values. Numlog. So 1, comma 3. Put a comma at the end here. One more square bracket. 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let us print the original array. Okay. And we are going to add some elements. So to add the element, there's a function called append. It will take, basically it takes 3 parameters. The first parameter is the name of the array. So if I want to do that, I'll directly write a print into bracket. Then we have the object np dot append. Now it takes, you can see it will take 3 parameters. The first 2 parameters are the array and the values, and the third axis. Okay, so in this, my array name is a, comma. Now whatever elements I want to add here. Now as you can see, my one row has 3 elements or 3 columns in one row. So the dimension is important here. So if I want to add a row here, a new row, I need to pass in square bracket the 3 elements. So 7, you can put 8 and 9. Okay. And if I'm not able to, or I'm not putting the right values, what will happen, or the right dimension? What will happen? The exception which I said, which is your value error exception, that is going to be thrown and you get an error. I'm not going to specify the access right now. So we just complete this and let us run it. Fine. Now look at this one. The first is my original array with 2 dimensions. This. One more thing you might have noticed now is it is flattened my array into a 1D array. And at the end, it has added the 3 values. Clear? Now, if suppose you do not want this to happen, then in that case, you need to specify the axis. So what we'll do is we'll write one more print statement here. And this time I'll specify the axis as 0. So let us write, now for this, I'll just write and append elements. Now elements. Okay, this was without specifying the axis. Now here I'm going to specify the axis. So append along elements along axis. Let's see, let us say 0. Okay, and I can put a slash n here. You will get it. Fine. Now I'll put print into bracket np dot append function. Okay. Now, instead of like giving only two parameters, I'll give the same parameters again. So I have in the square bracket. Now, while passing the parameters this time, I won't put it in simple square brackets. This time, I'll pass it as a row. Okay, so I'll have 7, 8, 9. And you can see I have passed it as a row and I have used two square brackets. Okay, it is enclosed in two square brackets. Give a comma here and specify the axis. Now you can see by default the axis is none. Okay, so here I give axis equal to 0. Now I'll run this. And this was my previous when I did not pass the axis. You can see it got added at the end and it also flattened my array into a 1D array. And in the next case, when I passed it, I passed a row with, you can see the double squares. Okay, so this became one row here. And I also specified the axis as 0. Now, what is going to happen if I specify the axis as 1? Okay, let us see that as well. So I'll print this, append elements along axis 1. Okay, and put a slash n. Even here I'll put a slash n. Now what's going to happen is if suppose I try to pass the axis value as 1, the elements will be added to each row. So I'll just copy this. So if I'm passing 3 elements or 3 values, right? Now in this case, if I say, let us pass one more here. So I'll give one more square bracket and a comma. In the first one, let us put 5, 5. Okay, and I have 7, 8, 9. I'll put space 1. Okay, so what is going to happen is the first element, this the one which is in this first square bracket, this is going to be added to my first row. Okay, and next 7, 8, 9 will be added to the second row. So the dimension remains, the number of rows remains 2, but the number of columns will increase now. So if I run this now, here you can see after I add the elements along the axis 1, your 3 5s got added to my first row. Okay, and 7, 8, 9 got added to my second row. Clear? So when I specify axis as 0, a new row will be added to your 2D array. Okay, if I do not specify any axis, if the axes are given as none, by default it is none. So what happens? It flattens the array and adds the element at the end of the array. Clear? And the last one, when we specify axis equal to 1, in that case, the elements will be added to the rows. Now, what if I do not pass this second one? Will it work? Okay, like this. If I pass this, I remove this comma as well, and I hope the commas are right. Square bracket and put a comma. Okay. Will it throw the error which we said, the value error, or it will perform broadcasting and it is going to add 555 to both my rows? Okay, let us see that. Okay, it gives you a value error. Okay, so as we said, if the dimension do not match, okay, an error will be thrown or an exception will be thrown, right? And you can see that here, the value error. Clear? Now, let us see some other functions similar to your append. We also have a insert function. Now, this function is going to insert values in the input array along the given axis and before the index position, given index position. So if you have to specify, then again, we have to specify the index position and the axis as well. Okay, so let us take one example. I rectify this one, so I'll come back with 7, 8, and 9. And so this works fine, and I get the output right. Now let us see the next function, the insert function. Now, please remember insertion is not done in place, okay, and the function returns a new array. So if I want to assign an array, let us say I say b equal to, and I perform the insert option, what happens? A new array is created, right? The old arrays, that means in the memory, it is not going to use the same memory location and insert a value like we imagine. Actually, what happens? A new memory is allocated. The previous values will be picked up from the old, you can see, location. The new elements will be inserted and it will be saved. So it is going to pick up the values and also pick up the inserted values, the values which we have provided in the insert function, and create a new array altogether. Clear? And one more thing, if I'm not passing my axis, again, it will be flattened. That means a 1D array will be created if my original array is a 2D array. So let us take one example here. I'll just mark this whole thing into a comment. And for this example, for insert, again, there are 4 parameters actually for insert. The first parameter is the name of the array. And the second one is the object, the values, and the axis. There are 4 total parameters. We'll create an array. So A equal to np dot array. Here, I'll be creating a 2D array again with 3 rows and 2 columns. So I'll have this first row as 1, 2, then 3, 4, and finally 5, 6. Okay. I have an array. Let us print this one. Now, the first example which we'll say is we are not going to pass the axis parameter and see how the values are inserted in the array. So, write without, say, without axis parameter. Okay. Print. I'm not assigning the array to a new variable. Okay, so we'll just print the values. We'll say np dot insert. Okay, the insert function. It takes the first parameter as the name of the array, comma, the object and the value. So this, the object will be the index positions. So if I give 3 here, okay, that means at index position 3, my new values should be inserted. Now the new values can be either a single value or multiple values. If I want to give multiple values here, let us give it like 11 and say 12. So I put it in the square bracket here. Okay, and the third last parameter, the axis parameter, we are going to ignore it right now. So here we go. Now this was my original array, and here you can see this index position 0, 1, 2, and at index position 3, it has inserted my 2 values 11 and 12 here. So 11, 12 is added here, And one more thing you can see, you can notice this, it is flattened. So it becomes a 1D array. Okay. Now that is just because we have not specified the access parameter. Now let us specify the access parameter 0 and see how it works. So we'll get print, say access parameter 1, or let's put 0, 0. Okay. So when I pass access parameter as 0, let us see what happens. Just slash n. Okay. So print the object np dot insert function into bracket a comma. Let us change the index position now. Let us say 1. Okay, because we have specified the, you can say the access as 1. That means what is going to happen is it is going to insert a row. Okay, so a new row will be inserted at the index position 1. Okay, that means the second row will be the value which I'll be passing. Now, while passing, if you look at the dimension of my array, if you look at the dimension of the array, it is